Okay, on this video, I'm going to show you how to build a set of basement stairs that you can be proud of. We're not just slapping together pieces of 2x with boards underneath each tread. We're going to actually dado these in and do it kind of like a finished set of stairs, except it is made out of 2x. Now, the two outside stringers I'm making out of these 12-inch LVLs, and the inside I'll have a middle one that'll just be made out of this 2x12. But I'm doing a closed stringer. An open stringer is where you actually cut the wood, out for each tread. We're doing a closed stringer, which means we're dadoing out for each step and riser. Now my plans call for a 9-inch tread, and I'm going to go measure now for the exact height that I need for these stairs. Now when you're measuring the height of your stairs, you want to measure straight down from the upper floor down to the lower floor, and you want to add whatever your finished floor is going to be above that. In my case, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to measure to the top of the floor sheathing, and then I'll add 3/4 of an inch, and that's what I'll use to figure these stairs. Okay, so I measured that, and again, that's from where the top of the stairs is, the floor height, the finished floor height, down to the floor you're going to, which in my case is the basement. And I came up with 103 inches. I was 102 1/4, and I added 3/4 for the finished height of the floor, so 103 inches. Now my plans are calling for a 9-inch tread, and it's calling for 13 treads, which means there's 14 risers. There's always one more riser than there is tread. Tread is a step. So that figures out, by doing the math, dividing 103 by 14, I ended up with 7.35 blah blah blah. So basically 7 3/8. It almost never figures out exactly. So you just, if you're within a 32nd of an inch, it's going to be fine. So now I'll set the rafter square. Now these are called rafter clips or stair clips, some people call them. They're $5-6. You can get them at pretty much any place that sells building materials. And what you do is you set these on your square. Now in my case, I know I need a 9-inch tread, so I don't know if you can see this, but when you set these up, let me try to get it out of the shadow. When you set these up, you want to set it so that the 9, which is right here, the line intersects the board. So you don't want to set the clip on 9. You want to set the clip where it intersects the board. It may not be the same. And then on this side, I want to set 7 3/8. So now I've got this set at 7 3/8, and this one set at 9. And that will give me what I need hooked up on this square, and that will continue on. So now if you were using something like regular 2x material, you'd want to crown that. And crown means it has a bow in it like this, from top to bottom. It bows. And you think these LVLs would be absolutely straight, but they're actually not. This has a crown in it, which is up. This is up. So I'm going to start my stairs here. And what you're going to do is trace this on here. And by going this way, it's the same angle. So that will be the top cut for the stairs. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to step this off. And when you're doing this stepping off, you want to follow this line until it intersects your measurement, which in this case is 7 3/8. And just keep stepping it off. I know that I need 13 treads, which means I need 14 risers. So I'm going to step it off 14 times. All right, so I've stepped this off and I counted them out, and basically the end of my stairs would be here. Now that's laying the stairs out. Now I've got to figure out I want the treads to protrude through the side here a little bit, and then code says you have to close these in, so I have to put a riser in here too as well. So I'm going to dado everything out to do that. Okay, what I've done is I've taken my tread material, which is 2 by 12, and I laid it underneath the lines that I marked out with the square, and I just traced both sides of that. So you can see I have a bottom line, a top line. I put a squiggly in it because I know that's where I want to dado out. And I went through and did that with each one. And you'll see this is where this tread is going to sit. And it hangs out a little bit from the stringer, which is what I want. You could set it back so it was like this, but I like it better out here. Now, if it was a finished set of stairs with bullnose that you're putting in the house itself, not the basement, you would do just that. You would stop here and you would have a bullnose, but you would dado it out. You would also dado it out so your top line is here, but your bottom line would be a wider as a wedge. And that way you could slide shims in there to tighten that up. And that would push it right up tight against the top cut where you're actually going to look at. It's just not necessary to do all that on a set of basement stairs. But if you're doing finished stairs, that's what you would do. You would do everything that I'm doing here, except you'd use better material than an LVL. You would use pine or oak or whatever you're building them out of. And you wouldn't be using 2x for treads. You would be using, you know, oak treads, yellow pine treads, whatever, and you would trace that bullnose on there, and it would be set back from the edge. It wouldn't go all the way through like this does. But this is typical of the way you do basement stairs. Now, a lot of guys would just nail this to cut the treads, put that on there like that, put a cleat on the bottom to hold it, and then screw it through from the underside. I don't like doing that. I like to have a cleaner set of stairs than that. So I'm going to dado these out, and then when I'm done, I'm going to also dado out what will be the riser. And what the riser will do, will come up underneath the tread. Say that's your tread. It'll come up underneath it like this, and it'll come down and it'll fasten into the back of the next tread with screws in the back. Now, if you were doing a finished set of stairs, This riser, first of all, wouldn't be 2x4, it would be 1x. I mean, 2x material, it would be 1x. And it would be dadoed into that tread like that. So you wouldn't have this joint here. But again, this is basement stairs. So, you know, you don't want to get totally ridiculous for basement stairs. I want them nice, but I don't want to be totally ridiculous about it. So the next step for me, and I'll show you, is to dado out all these treads. Now, this line here is where it needs to stop. But if you go over a little bit, it's no problem, because remember, you're dadoing in this side too. So I'll run slightly past this line when I do it. Okay, the next thing you'll need is a router with a straight bit like this. I think this is that's a 3/4 inch bit, and I've got it down about a 1/2 inch on the router, just because it doesn't really matter. It's just it's easier to work with the figures later on. And you need a board or some straight edge and a couple of clamps. And what you want to do is just clamp them on a piece of scrap and run into it with your router. Now remember, the router's going like this, so if you tried to go in from this side, it would run off on you. So you want to make sure you're going the right direction. You'll figure it out real quick. Run a scrap piece like that in, and then measure that. In this case, it's exactly 1 3/8. So now I know when I set this up on my line, I want to be 1 3/8 from that line. And I'll run down through there, and it'll be a nice clean cut down through there. So you can measure it like this and try to figure it out, but it's easier just to run a small piece like this, and then you know exactly what it is. And because of the way the router cuts, I'm going to cut the lower line first. And then when I do the upper line, I'm going to have to go the opposite direction, and I can bring it into the cut and over. What you want to do is you want to set it on the side that the line you want to hold. You don't want to set it here for this line, because if you could run off and you'd run up into your material you don't want cut. So you put it here and run this line. When you go to run this line, you put it here, and that stops it from going further than what you want while you're doing it. Because a router, if you're not used to it, even if you are used to it, it can run away on you a little bit. So you always want to put your fence on the side that you're cutting to the line, not the opposite side, if that makes sense to you. The router can't go this direction anymore if the board, your board is put here. It can't run that way, but it can run this way. So when you set for this line, you set on this side, then it can't go past this line. Okay, what I've done is I've gone through and I've marked my 1 3/8 top and bottom of all the treads that I'm going to cut out. Now I can just zip along doing them. I don't have to measure each one. I just do it ahead of time. Now you could cut a block 1 3/8 or whatever it is your router is. It may be different than mine, and you could do that way. I just measured with a tape measure. If I was in a shop, I would probably cut a block, but I'm out here and all I have is a router and a skill saw. Now it goes without saying that you want to put your clamps on the back side of this board, because you're running your router along this. So obviously you don't want them on this side. Now I have several routers, and they're bigger than this, way bigger, some of them. And that's probably what I should be using, but I love this little router, so, and it was handy. Now you see I ran by a little bit, and that's okay, because like I said, this is going to get, well, and this is the top one, so it'll get cut off. But it'll normally be dadoed in this way too. So now I'll reset this. On the opposite side. Now I'm going to show you what happens if you run it the wrong way, and I hope I don't destroy this when I do it. See how it wants to run away on you? But if I put it in here, okay, I'm gonna stop this video for a minute. I just wanted to make an announcement. As you all know, Mrs. W has been playing music, and I've been using that in some of my videos. And we talked about starting a channel for her music, and we've done that. We don't have a house to live in. We're living in sheds, so we have recording equipment, but we don't have any way of using it right now. So the format's kind of like sitting around a campfire kind of thing. It's mostly live. I think that a lot of people can appreciate that. A lot of people have asked about her music and how they can get it. So I'm going to put some links for her channel. I just want to say I have a lot of videos, and I have never asked anybody to like or subscribe or share ever. But I'm going to ask you for her channel, to get her channel off the ground. If you listen to it and you like it, hit the like button and subscribe and share it. I want to try to get her channel off the ground. It's not easy starting a new channel. So with that said, I hope you enjoy her music. Thanks. Okay, on to the next step, which is the risers. Now what I've done, this is the original mark that we marked with the square. And all I did is I took a piece of material, whatever you're using for the risers, and I just put it on there and traced the thickness. And I did that on all the steps. Then, just like the steps, I went back my 1 3/8. Now keep in mind that that's for my router. Your router may be different, so you got to figure that out. I showed you earlier how to do that. So now it's all marked out, and I'm just going to repeat this whole process down through for all the risers. Also, I forgot to mention the very top step. This is the very top step. You don't have to do this, because you're going to be cutting this off at this line, and this is going to go against the framing that's in the house. Now if you wanted to, you could do it, and if it was finished stairs, I would do it. But in this case, it's basement stairs, so I'm just going to cut this line, and that'll go against the framing, the floor system inside the house. But if it was finished stairs, I would do this. That I would put a piece in and try it each time, and if it didn't fit, then I could adjust it by just tapping the fence over a little bit. So just something to keep in mind. You don't want to get all done and find out you can't get a step in. Well, there's been a change of plans. Mrs. W is away for a while, so I'm gonna have to put these stairs in by myself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue the cut up through here all the way down like this, because I'm gonna put these stringers in and then I'll put the risers and steps in after I get it in place. And I won't be able to do that unless I can slide up from the bottom. The stairs I can slide in this way. So you'll see this when I'm done, but it'll be underneath the stairs, and it's not a big deal. Now, I showed you how to dado this tread and riser out with a router. If you don't have a router, or you don't feel comfortable with a router, there is another way to do it. So I'll show you on this piece. What you do is take the skill saw and set the blade to the height of what you want your dado in there. And you make a series of cuts. Do your 2 outside cuts first, and then just sort of cut in between until you get little strips. I'll show you. Now, if you have a multi-master, you can use that to cut these out. Or you could use a chisel and knock them out with a chisel. Now, I went past where I need to be because I'm coming the other direction with the other cut, so that's fine. So I'll go down through and I'll cut all these out that way. There you have it. All right, what I'm going to do for the center stringer is I'm going to put pocket screws in so that I can screw from underneath. So you won't see any screws on the stairs when you're walking up and down. Everything will be underneath or coming through the side, which there'll be a wall on either side of that. So you're not going to see any fasteners when I get done. You don't have to do it this way. You could screw the steps in, but this way it hides all the fasteners. So that's what I'm going to do. What I have here is a pocket screw jig. It's made by Krieg. You know, it's fairly inexpensive, and it's a good way to use fasteners for a lot of different things. So what I'll do is just put in a couple here and here, all the way up through. Battery dead. Okay, what I've done is I nipped the top of these stringers off by 3/4 because I had set this for the flooring finished and it was 3/4. So that's the measurement I used. So I nipped them off 3/4 down so that they're flush with the plywood here. And then what I did is I put them in temporarily and leveled them up with each other so that the treads are level. And now I can start doing my stairs. If you're going to make a set of stairs and then put them in later after they're built, you want to leave yourself at least a 1/2 inch or so, maybe even 3/4, narrower than what your opening is, because you don't want to struggle trying to get them in. And usually you're going to have something that's going to finish this wall up here, coming down, whatever, and that will cover that joint where it's not against that. In my case, I'm building them in place just because they're going to be too heavy for me to handle. And so I made them tight, and there's going to be a wall underneath this beam right straight down, and underneath this beam right straight down. So I'm going to have a wall on either side of that. And then when I bring my pine down, it'll cover up a good share of this space here where you see it up where the tread doesn't go all the way to the end. It'll cover up a lot of that. So I wanted to put them tight. So now I can cut these things out and put them together. What you have to do is you have to rip the risers down to whatever your step is. And if I don't do that, then my center stringer won't work because they'll be hanging down. If you don't have a center stringer, you can just leave them long. But in my case, I have to do it. So there you have it. Set of basement stairs. Really solid, no bounce to them at all.